Hey y'all, in this video I'm going to show you how to build a data pipeline that pulls data from Shopify and loads it into BigQuery using Keboola. It's a clean setup, fully automated, and takes just a few steps to get running, and maybe more importantly, there's no code required. If this helps, give it a like, maybe subscribe, and let's get into it. Alright, so diving into Keboola here, so you can see we're on a components page, so we want to start off with creating a Shopify component. So if I search Shopify, you can see I already have a data source made here. We're going to add a new configuration for this video. However, if you didn't have one, you could click Add Component and search for Shopify, click the data source, and roll from there. So we're going to click Add New Configuration. I'm going to call this Shopify to BigQuery. Maybe toss in that it's a video as well. Descriptions and names are good. I've heard. I don't know. Data people, correct me if I'm wrong. I think they're okay. So go ahead and click Create Configuration there. It's going to take us to this screen, which we're going to go ahead and toss in our parameters and then what we want to push in here. So you can see we have to put in our admin, API access, shop name, and API version, which is already set there. And we can have some more options down here. So I'm going to go ahead and put my API token in there, and I'll be right back. All right, so you can see I have our API token in there and our shop name. I cut that bit out because no one likes to see someone use 1Password. I'm looking at you, security team. So I can go ahead and click save on that. It's going to save that API token and shop name there, so that's great. You can see our API versions set there. We can do our fetch parameters, which is either updated or created at. And we can do incremental update or a full load. I'm just going to do a full load for this one. And what I think is really cool is down here on the bottom is you can actually see the actual endpoints that we're going to run here. So, and we give the option to choose whatever you want to. So by default, we have products, product inventory, orders, customer, and payments transactions. So those are what's automatically going to be loaded. Obviously, you can pick and choose. I do not have access to, or I have not activated my Shopify payments. So I'm going to go ahead and close that or take that one off. But for this video, we're going to load in products, product inventory, orders, and customers into this into BigQuery. So again, I can click Save. And you can see we have our versions here as well. We don't talk about version control too much in these videos, but you can roll back versions, which I think is really neat. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and run this component. So I'm going to go and click Run, go ahead and run the component. So the reason why I'm running this component is so that this data will go ahead and get loaded inside of Keboola. So this generally takes 10 or 11 minutes. I'm not going to make you watch all 11 minutes, I promise. I'll kind of, through the magic of editing, skip to the end in just a moment. But the reason I want to go ahead and run this instead of going to BigQuery next is I want to make sure that I can get this data inside of here so that it makes the next setup process way easier with BigQuery. We can choose the columns we want and know exactly what we're going to pull into BigQuery because it'll already be inside of Keboola. So I'm going to stop for a second. And like I said, through the magic of editing, you're going to be able to see this created job change to a success job just like that. You can see even through the magic of editing, we even scroll up on the page because I realized that my face might be in the way of, of the last use here. So you can see, yeah, now we have a success job versus a running job. So now that means that this data has been loaded into Keboola, which is great. So that means that now we can use it inside of BigQuery. So what I do want to show is go into storage real quick and just show this data. And so you can see, let's see. I can go do last change. Here's our last change 1 minute ago. There's our recently upgraded by. I can open this bucket up, and there is all of our data. There's a lot of stuff there, right? So that works. So now what we can do is we're going to go back to components, and then we need to search for BigQuery here. So search for BigQuery, and we have a data source. And then let's see, we can scroll down a bit more. There's our data destination. So we're sending the data to BigQuery. So we need to work with that. So add a new configuration. We'll do Shopify to BigQuery. If I can spell, there we go. Create the configuration. You can see we need to set a service account key here. So that's the JSON from BigQuery. So again, through the magic of editing, this is just going to get popped in just a second. And just like that, which I guess you can't see, but you can see over here on the second side of the versions that the configuration was edited. So it was put in there. Security team, not showing again, I promise. So now what we can do is we need to set our data set. So inside of BigQuery, our data set is demos here. So we can do demos, save that. And now we need to set our rows. So this is where we're going to be able to choose what tables we want to load into BigQuery. So we're going to add a row. We can search here. So we don't want Salesforce. So I guess we can type in Shopify. That'd be good. So here's this information. So I want to do, we'll start off with customer. Why not? So create for customer. You can set your chunk size here. Name our table. So I'm going to do Shopify customer, and you can see we do a full load, automatic incremental load. or a manual incremental load. So we're just going to do a full load here. Obviously, for a real life use case, you might want to do an incremental load just to save you some time and some credits there. And you see down here on the bottom is that you can actually come down and actually set the data types here as well if you want to. So you can see you can come down here and set all of these. You can actually you can change some things down here as well. And so yeah, so obviously, if I wanted to set, these are obviously strings. So if I set string, it's then going to ask me what I want to name it. So default address, last name, which is what it was named inside. And so we can go through here and just do string. If we leave it at ignore, it's not going to load the column in. So we got to go here and put the data types for all of them. And so again, just so the video not be too long, I'm going to go ahead and do all these. So whenever you pop back in just a second, you should see all them set. So just like that. So you can see we have a lot of columns. I set them all strings just to make it easy for this video. Obviously, we give you the option to set these data types so that you can actually have the usability. If you want to set some dates or integers and so on and so forth there, that works. So I can go ahead and click save here, and it's going to save this. I could run this, but I'm going to wait, and I'm going to set up one more setup here. So I can come back into here, set up one more row, search for our Shopify data. So we did customer, so let's maybe do a different one. Maybe let's do product here. So I click create. Again, it's going to set up the same looking process, same information here. And we can go down to our column names. Again, they're all set at ignore at first. I'm going to set these all as strings. Again, won't make you watch all this. They'll all be set in just a moment. All right, so just like last time, I set them all as strings just so this data will get loaded in cleanly. Obviously, if you're running this in production, you'll definitely want to set those to be what you want. So now we have 2 tables loading into BigQuery from Shopify. Obviously, you could set them all up. And obviously, if you could use our MCP server to kind of automate this process even more without having to actually come through the UI. But I do love our UI. I do love the ability for you to actually set those columns individually. I've had so many fights with BigQuery and other databases throughout my data career of it not liking a data type for something. So I like the fact that we can manually set those. Now what we want to do is create a flow so that we can set this thing to run automatically. So coming to my flows, I can do create flow. I'm going to name this. You'll see it. You see a trend here. Shopify to BigQuery video. Create that flow. So we're going to select our first step. We're going to search for Shopify. There we go. So there's a data source. Shopify, the BigQuery video, excuse me. So that's great there. We've already set that up, so it's good to go. And then we can add a task, search for BigQuery, data destination, Shopify to BigQuery video. And again, you can choose to run all rows or choose the ones that we want. I'm just going to go ahead and choose them since we actually did set 2 up there. But you could set those up to be separate steps. You could set them up to be together like I did here. So we gave you the options for that as well. So this is good. I can rename my steps here just for more documentation sake. So this will be Shopify extraction and BigQuery load. Hit that phase. So this is good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and click run flow. So this will start running, and I'll go through everything else that we have here. So you see this thing is kicked off. So I can pop over into schedules, and you can see we have no planned schedules, but if I did, I could set this thing up to run every 15 minutes, every hour, once a day, once a week. I can be as creative as I want down here as well. We even give you a preview of when it's going to run just to make sure that you set your thing up like you wanted it to. I don't want to schedule on this, so I'm going to move on from that. Next, we have notifications. So every good tool should have notifications. Keboola does as well. So you can set up a notification so whenever something runs successfully, whenever there's a warning, whenever there's an error. But what I really love about Keboola's notifications is that you can actually set up a notification for a processing job. So basically, if the job usually takes an hour, you can say, hey, if it takes 20% more than an hour, I should get a notification about that. Not even though it finished successfully, something different's going on if it took 20% longer, right? Maybe that's more data came into Shopify than usual this run, during that run period or something, right? But that gives you just an idea of saying, hey, something has changed here. Go take a look at it, which I love that notification. I don't see that in many tools. I love that we have it at Keboola. And obviously we have email, but you can also send those to webhooks as well. So if you want to send it to a Slack, a Slack channel, Teams, whatever you want to do there, that works. So that's kind of schedules and notifications. So if I come over to all runs, you can see we have this run set up here. And you can see it actually sets up to be a Shopify extraction and BigQuery load, so it actually separates them so you can know what's actually running. So again, Just so this video is not too long, I'm going to edit out the loading process here, and we'll pop back in whenever this thing finishes successfully. So not only did we edit out all the waiting time, we also edited ourselves to the top right-hand corner so that you can actually see the status bars here. But anyways, you can see that the Shopify extraction finished up, took 4 minutes and 21 seconds, and then the BigQuery load took 39 seconds. Both successful here. This whole process took 5 minutes and 9 seconds, including kind of the waiting time in between the processes to start, which I think is pretty awesome. So now if I pop into BigQuery, and you can see inside of my demos project, inside of my demos data set, you can see there is my Shopify customer. And then if I would have remembered to rename my table to Shopify products, that's the name of it, but we can fix that later. So if I click on that product, for example, you can see there's all those columns. I set them all to be strings. They're strings inside of BigQuery. I can go to data preview, and you can see there is all the information that we pulled in here, which I think is pretty cool. Obviously, I do like to come in here and show that we actually, bloated some stuff in here, because if not, then you wouldn't have to believe me. Now, there it is. And that's it. Shopify to BigQuery, all wired up through Keboola. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe, and maybe check out the video we queued up for you. It's probably right up your alley. Catch you in the next one.